This is why I think that filming in New York City is just vexing sometimes. You get these, what is that, a car? Thank you. Hey, Damon DeMarco here for CreateX3.com, and today's video is going to be on a subject that somebody asked me about recently. They said, how do you price yourself as a freelancer? If you are going pro as an artist, this is the topic for you. So before we get into it, please hit subscribe down in the thing below. Questions, comments, make sure that you leave them in there. Join our community by going to CreateX3.com, subscribe to our newsletter, and now let's get into it. The decision to go out on your own as an artist is an exciting one. It could also be a little nerve-wracking. Work starts coming your way, and many times, if you're a writer or an actor or a producer or something, you have the benefit of an agent who is going to negotiate on your behalf. However, even if you do have agents, many times work is going to come to you on the side, and it's up to you then to represent yourself. So how do you do that? If you've only been writing for 5 or 6 years, I would not presume that you're going to get a huge amount of money right off the bat. Use any opportunities that come to you while you're a beginner or even an early journeyman to learn more about your craft. The compensation, that's lovely to have, but really what you're trying to have, as always when you're an artist, is the experience of going beyond your current skill set and doing something in this particular endeavor that you never even thought that you were capable of doing. When you get more accelerated into your career, 20 years, 26 years, 30 years, 35 years, whatever it is, well, then the rules change a little bit. You can and should confidently ask for higher rates of pay because you've earned it. When I go to my attorney, for instance, and I say, hey, listen, I need this, that, and the other thing, he charges me because that's what he does for a living. And that's what he spent all of his time, all of his life energy, he's put into that livelihood, into that practice. The mechanic who fixes a car says the same thing. A plumber says the same thing. And well, they should. They have decided that this is going to be their life and their expertise. They know more about that field than anybody else does. They need to get paid for that expertise. I had a musician come to me the other day and he said, yeah, I got this new gig. And I said, wow, that's exciting. Where is it? And he mentioned a restaurant that we both knew very, very well. I said, I love that restaurant. He said, me too, but they don't pay anything. I said, how can they not pay you if they're going to have you play there? He said, well, they said it was just a gig for exposure. And I said, and you accepted this? I wasn't trying to take away his excitement over playing at this venue. I was kind of trying to suggest to him that he is a pleasure to listen to. Let me tell you, this guy can play his guitar like nobody's business. He is creating the entire environment for that restaurant. He deserves to charge for that. And so the only force limiting him from receiving more money for his efforts in this case was him. He didn't believe that he could ask for that. You can. As a matter of fact, you must. If somebody wants a book written, for instance, and they're not willing to pay for it, I'm not your guy. I've worked a really long time to get where I'm at, and if you think that it's just going to be something that I just do because I like you, I do like you, but I like you even more when you treat me like the professional that I am. And so even when you're at an accelerated level of your career, you may still run into this kind of dynamic where people don't want to pay you, or they want to pay you less, or they say things like, well, we don't have much of a budget. That's a no-fly zone for me when somebody says, oh, we don't have much of a budget. Well, that's your problem, that's not mine. Here's what I require to get this job done in the manner that is going to befit both of us professionally. I'm not going to put my name on anything unless I know that I put my best into it, and I'm not going to put my best into it if I'm constantly worried about paying bills. One particular rubric, it was actually given to me by a dear friend of mine, David Fisher, best-selling author, who has been a very generous mentor to me over the years. When somebody comes to you and they're negotiating about the price of something, you can tell them with utter confidence, this is the three-legged stool of pricing. You can have it good, fast, or cheap. Of these three, you get to pick two, but you cannot have all three. If you want it good and fast, it ain't going to come cheap. If you want it fast and cheap, it ain't going to be good. And if you want it good and cheap, it ain't going to be fast. Any freelancer can keep that rubric in mind. It is a very powerful way to condense thoughts into what do you want out of this project. And you can talk with a prospective client very frankly about that. If you can only tender X amount of money and you want it by this date, that's an impossibility. or I can't give it very much focus, so I can't swear that it's going to be the quality that you and I want it to be. A lot of times it boils down to saying no, and every time that you say no, a little part of you might feel the urge to say, oh God, I really wanted that job, or oh God, no. If it's a no, it's a no. Walk away from it. Create space for something even better to come along. Create space for another offer that is in alignment with your level of skill and expertise, and at a price that is not only just reasonable, but is desirable. That's the kind of work that you want to press for. That's the kind of mentality, the relationship that you want to have with your client. You can also think of it this way. When you undercut yourself in your pricing, you are in fact undercutting the project, because the project will not get done in any way that is acceptable or impressive if you are flailing about constantly trying to make ends meet, or begin to think negatively about the project because you keep saying to yourself, God, I should have asked for more money. Well, who's the person who set that situation up? You did. So don't do that. Stick to your guns. Stick to your pricing. If the deal doesn't work out, then move on to the next one. Insist on operating under the optimal circumstances for you to do your best work on behalf of the client. If the client does not understand that or does not resonate with that, then you are probably dealing with the wrong person, someone who should take their opportunity elsewhere. Two other considerations. The first is, don't accept an hourly wage. Hourly wages are for people who punch a clock and do rote or routine work. If you're consulting for somebody on an hourly basis, I think that can be appropriate. But if you're doing a novel, if you're doing a ghostwriting gig, if you're doing a sculpture for them, you're not getting paid on an hourly basis. If you're thinking about that project all the time, you're daydreaming about it, it is taking over your entire life. And so you should price yourself accordingly. For most creative projects, I would say steer clear of the hourly wage. Price yourself for the job, making sure that you are well compensated for your work. Let the prospective client make the first overture. If you set your level here, they might have been willing to pay up here. I had that happen on a job at one point. It was a corporate client, and I didn't realize what they were willing to pay. And so I kind of set the level here. Later on in conversations with this client, whom I got to know very well, he said to me, oh yeah, we would have gone way up to here. And I felt, so something that you can do to start off any negotiation is say, what did you have in mind for compensation? Let them lead. You should have a number in mind, but they might come in above that. And if that's the case, ask for 20% above what they're offering. You'll probably get it, in which case you've made out rather well. But if you lead with an amount and they say, oh yeah, that sounds pretty good to me, they probably could have gone higher, and you probably have undercut your value. It's important to remember that everything that I'm telling you, it's not a formula, right? It's not A plus B plus C equals D. Negotiations don't work that way. However, you do have to enter any negotiation knowing what your actual worth is, and knowing that there are little shifts that we can make on this point and on that point. However, when you start to feel that you're being undervalued consistently to make the other person feel like they got some kind of a deal, well, they're probably not the kind of people that you want to work with, because they're not wise enough to realize that they're not getting a deal whatsoever if the person that they had hired as their expert is being backed into a financial corner. That's not the best way for anybody to prosper. Remember, what you're looking for essentially is a partnership. They supply the need and the economic means for you to do your work so that everybody is happy. If all parties are not happy, or at very least content in a negotiation, this is a failed negotiation, in my opinion. It's not a zero-sum game where there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. Every good deal should benefit all parties involved, and you are certainly one of them as a creative freelancer. So make sure that you're getting a deal that makes you smile whenever you go to work in the morning.
Don't do business that don't make me smile.
If not, I would say no to that. Realize your value. Wait for the next deal. I hope this helps you out. I know that there's a lot of people out there in the artistic world, in our own community here at createx3.com, who have asked me this question before, and it's time that we talk about things like this. You should price yourself accordingly, and you should feel good about the service that you're offering through whatever art form that you practice. For createx3.com, my name is Damon DeMarco. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay creative.